Talk about God. All in favor of God? How good is He?
That is good.
I like this. If anybody's wearing bright pink floral patterns. Betty Lou, that's how you almost stood in this table here. That's good. Wow. Anybody, if you were you here last week, did anybody go home and do anything about it? Anybody speak, pray, believe with more joy and authority? Anybody see anything happen? Well, yeah, but okay, anything worth saying out loud in a group of people? Okay, good. Let's continue, I think, with the whole flow of thought. A little bit of review. We become what we look at, what we focus on, what we gaze upon. We become the thing we study. We become the thing we look at. And I said pretty strongly last week, that's a real strong impetus not to look deep within, which is almost universal in our culture. The answer is to look within. And as I said last week, that's what got you in this mess in the first place, was looking deep. Don't look deep within. Look deep without. Look on the Lord. And this is 2 Corinthians 3, 18, 19, right around there somewhere, right? That with 15 through 18, that with unveiled faces, as we gaze on the Lord as in a mirror, we are transported from glory to glory. I like what Bill Johnson says, that the track has been laid. Jesus laid the track. One nice thing about trains is that you can't turn left or right. He says you got to go where the track goes. Jesus has laid the track, and the train only goes one direction, and it's from glory to glory to glory. So if you jump on his train, it's just a one-way trip from glory to glory. And of course, ultimately, that's where we're headed. Period. We've talked about that a lot. I think my biggest response to what the Lord said last week was I went home and said, Yahoo, that's great. Then why don't I see more? Right? Anybody else have that question? And why aren't we? It was one of those, yay, whoa moments. That sounds great. That sounds wonderful. But why don't we see more? And I've been chewing on that, and I sure hope I'll give you a word from the Lord, not a word from me. Let me begin perhaps answering that question to a certain extent by telling you a few ridiculously unrelated stories. First story is last summer during the Olympics. Anybody watched? Do you remember the Olympics last year? And did anybody notice? It was a little bit of a news buzz about how many sprinters won, gold, silver, bronze medals, and they were all from one teeny tiny little country. Do you remember? Where were they from? No, not Winter Olympics. You're talking Winter Olympics.
Jamaica.
Oh, this running. What? Jamaica. Yeah, do you remember?
I mean, Usain Bolt was from Jamaica.
Usain Bolt won the, demolished world record in 100 to 200, but it wasn't just him. It was a whole bunch of guys and women, men and women. How big is Jamaica? About this big, I think. How many people live in Jamaica? I have no idea, but it's really small. So it's a little bit of a news story. What is it? What's in the water in Jamaica that makes all these people run fast? That's a very interesting question. What is it? And I don't have the answer to that question, so let me tell you another story. Here's a funny one, and I don't know if this is this is personal. I don't know what this has, if this is real or not. But 2 weeks ago, Nancy and I were gone. We were up at the Highland Games at Grandfather Mountain, so there were several thousand, mostly Scotch or Scotch-Irish people up there, and it was Scott. I'm not Scott. Am I saying it right or wrong way?
It's a drink.
And I should know because I are one. But whatever I am, I'm from Scotland. And this is really crazy, but about 1 out of 6 Scottish men have ponytails. It was crazy. It was crazy. It never even dawned on me. I have a ponytail because I have a Scottish ancestry? Maybe not, but it was crazy. I'm not kidding. It was like, what's with all these? Of course, they wear skirts too. It's a very effeminate bunch. Not. They throw telephone poles for fun. Another silly story. Here, I'll do another personal one, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. When I was in high school, we moved from backwoods of northern Michigan to Cleveland, Ohio, for my 11th grade year, and it was quite the delightful culture shock. I fancied myself a bit of a musician, a trumpet player at the time. You know, I was first chair as a 10th grader, which says something about the quality of the band I was in. But I was first chair in that, and so I came to this new school and promptly found myself about the 14th best trumpet player in the school. And I went home after my first day of school. I'm not kidding, after the first day of school, the band director didn't know what to do. I was a kid from backwoods of Michigan, so he gave me a stack of second trumpet parts here. And I practiced for 4 hours that night. And literally, and I did pretty much the same thing the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And when I was a senior in high school, I was practicing 5 or 6 hours on my trumpet every day. My ambition goal was to try to be the best high school trumpet player in the state. What does that have to do with it? It sounds like I'm just bragging. Well, I wasn't. There was something in the water. In that, because I wasn't an oddball. I didn't stick out one bit. Nobody in my high school band said, "Ooh, Dan, he practices a lot." Nobody said that. Why? Because a whole bunch of them all practiced that much. Our football team was so-so. We went 50-50 my senior year, but our band was undefeated. And I could go on and on. I didn't know it was unusual at the time. It's just in the 40 years since then, I've looked back and say, wow, that was really interesting. It was an interesting place and time. There was something in the water, in the atmosphere. Many of you wouldn't know or care, but George Ezell was the conductor of the Cleveland Symphony at that time. At that time, the Cleveland Symphony was at the top of the world. There was no symphony in the world that was better than the Cleveland in the late 60s and early 70s. And for some reason, that whole thing just permeated. I mean, it was in the streets, literally. There was musical excellence flowed in the streets. Another story. Why are world famous, if you go to a circus, why are there Mongolian horseback riders at the circus?
Because they're the best.
Yeah, exactly, because they're the best. And why are they all from Mongolia? What happened? What's going on here? Okay, stay at the circus, why are there Chinese acrobats at the circus? Or when you go to this one may be obvious, when you go to the Winter Olympics, why are the Scandinavians winning all the skating? Well, it's because they have snow year-round. That's right, what else could they do? Why does the Jamaican bobsled team not win the gold medal? That's right. No hills and no ice. Anyway, now let me give you a couple biblical ones. A very strange verse, I had to look, it's a very familiar verse. You've all heard it probably, but I don't know where it is. It's in 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 1, I think, and it said the men of Issachar understood the times and knew what to do. That's interesting. It's a generalized statement about a whole group of people. Very, very, very peculiar. And here's another one, probably the most famous along these lines. When Jesus went to Nazareth, he couldn't do any great miracles there. Oh, sure, a few folks got healed. You know, if we could just get up to the level of Nazareth.